If you haven't seen the previous video in this series, follow the link on your screen or click the link in the description or pinned comment below.
Why does the cartoon version of the house in the logo look so different from the actual house? It's a beautiful house. Use that for your stencil.
It's entirely possible the film's logo was made before they secured the filming location. I'm a real-life actor, and I've seen quite a few scripts that already had the finished logo for the project before any filming was done. Even if this wasn't the case, who cares?
McAllister's put lights on the trees across the sidewalk, surely prompting lawsuits from the dozens of kids tripping on the wires.
Why is the assumption that the McAllisters put those lights up? We'll later see that plenty of families on this block decorate their homes with Christmas lights, so I'm counting this as dubious.
Look, I know it's chaotic and all, but you're telling me not one of these kids are paying attention to the uniformed police officer in the middle of the entryway?
This one scene does a lot of heavy lifting for the film. The audience is being shown just how callous and aloof this family is, which sets up the premise of the film. The fact that you don't get that, but will spend the next 15 minutes complaining about how unrealistic it is for them to forget Kevin is sinful as shit.
Did you by any chance pick up the voltage adapter thing?
No, I didn't have time to do that.
Well, how am I supposed to shave in France?
Peter ignores thousands of years of men shaving with alternatives to electric razors.
You're kind of missing his point, though, and the fact that he's being hyperbolic. You made this video in 2016, an era where the world is already fully connected and it was easy to find adapters and such at the airport. This is 1990, and back then, these were the kinds of things you had to prepare for. Sure, he could have bought another razor in France, but why do that when you could have simply acquired the materials you needed before you even got there? To make this point clear, imagine this wasn't about a razor, but about shoes. Would thousands of years of men walking with alternatives to sneakers make sense in the context of having shoes before you left? You could always buy shoes in Paris, right? Or does it make more sense to prepare your footwear before you leave?
Go pack your suitcase.
Who the hell would let an 8-year-old pack his own suitcase? If I did that when I was 8 years old, it would have been full of only red vines and comic books.
I totally believe the red vines, but comic books? Jeremy doesn't know shit about comics.
All kids, no parents. Probably a fancy orphanage.
Harry forgets that he just saw a full-fledged adult walk by and ignore him 2 minutes ago.
Jeremy thinks orphanages don't have adults.
Is it true that French babes don't shave their pits?
C'est raciste. Also, what is Buzz worried about? He's 14 years old and looks like Biff Tannen's nerdy little brother. I don't think he'll be getting any during his French holiday.
I think when Buzz said pits, Jeremy heard puss.
Check it out, old man Marley.
Buzz, whose window faces Marley's house, is fascinated to see a dude that he's presumably noticed 1,000,000 times since living here, because we needed a quick way to introduce him.
This is what you get when you watch movies through CinemaSins. Cut context to lie about a scene. We are shown that not everyone in this family lives in this house. This is Rod, Buzz and Kevin's cousin, and he doesn't know who Old Man Marley is. He literally asks who the guy is, and that's when Buzz goes into his explanation.
Who's he?
You ever heard of the South Bend Shovel Slam?
No.
That's him.
Also, you did not f***ing notice this shit from the far side of the room.
Except he did. The closed captions reveal that Marley is scraping snow off the sidewalk, something Buzz says he does every night.
I wouldn't let you sleep in my room if you were growing on my ass. Check it out, old man Marley. Murdered his whole family and half the people on the block.
How come the cops don't arrest him?
Not enough evidence to convict.
I realize this is 14-year-old logic, but do they really believe this asshole killed his family and half the block, but there wasn't enough evidence for conviction?
Yes, what the f*** do you think 14-year-olds know about law, especially a moron like Buzz?
Little Nero's must have the fastest pizza oven ever, or at least pre-makes pies with every possible topping combination and make this arbitrary 20-minute self-imposed deadline. Also, how big can that delivery zone be? Like a half mile or less from the parking lot?
In the 90s, it was fairly common for pizza places to have a blank minute or less deadline. In fact, Domino's faced a ton of lawsuits back then that caused them to drop their famous 30-minute deadline. So a smaller shop like Nero's probably was attempting to undercut the bigger shops with this 20-minute deadline, which isn't impossible considering it doesn't take long to bake a pizza at all. And no pizza parlor worth their weight in the sodium content of their pizzas failed to do research about the average delivery time in their neighborhood. This is a silly question.
Well, we have automatic timers for our lights, locks for our doors. That's about as well as anybody can do these days, right?
Dude, house alarm systems have been around since the 1870s, and you can clearly afford one, so that is not the best you can do even in 1990.
I really hate to be pedantic here, but about as well as anybody can do does not mean the best one can do. It literally means the average. Besides, he already had the best home security available. Kevin McAllister.
Did anyone order me plain cheese?
Oh, yeah, we did. If you want any, somebody's gonna have to barf it all up, because it's gone.
Look, I had an older brother in real life, and he did plenty of older brother things to me, but even he thinks this movie's older brother is about 3 steps too far.
It's patently obvious that Buzz is a stereotypical bully. You know, the Stephen King kind that bullies kids at school, only this one has a younger brother.
I'm starting to think that Fuller is going to pee on Kevin intentionally, which may be early signs of Europhilia.
If I were making this video, I'd have made a joke that points out that this is Macaulay Culkin's real-life younger brother. I guess that would actually take talent, though.
Rather than take the opportunity to come back to the kitchen in case more of the house, Harry is apparently hanging out and shooting the shit with the pizza guy at the entrance.
I get that he's a cop and all, but he's already pushing it, opening the door for someone else. He doesn't have a right to walk about the house the way he is, and he's only getting away with it now because of how monumentally unaware this family is.
He'll pee all over me.
Fine. We'll put him somewhere else.
Kevin's last-ditch attempt to avoid being peed on is the main reason he's forgotten in the morning.
Narration.
His clock literally has battery backup written on it, but goes off immediately when the power is knocked out.
That's because the battery is for keeping the internal memory going in case of an outage. It is not for keeping the clock's face on.
The kid from across the street doesn't get home alone by his family, even though he's left the house. Maybe his parents actually care about him.
Right. Otherwise, the movie would have been about him. The fuck was this bullshit?
Good trip, bring me back something fresh.
There's a huge amount of things to go just perfectly for Kevin to be left, including the ability of all 11 kids to utterly ignore this kid that's announcing himself loudly by saying goodbye to them.
What? Why would this even be something you count in the glut of things that set up this film's premise? This family has more kids than Miss Wayans. Why would they even notice Heather counted this kid?
Did you count heads?
Yes, she did. Instead of counting faces, she counted heads, leading to this entire movie's events.
Yes, Jeremy, that's entirely why it's called a head count and not a face count. Why do you think Heather was touching their heads while counting them?
Hope we didn't forget anything.
Kevin apparently got into Mom's Valium supply last night to be able to sleep through the commotion of 14 raucous people getting ready at the same time.
Or Kevin was forced onto the 3rd floor of an enormous house the previous night by his mother for ruining dinner? Heck, you said it yourself. Everybody slept in.
Kevin unknowingly ingests a heavy stimulant and spends the next several minutes tripping balls.
Narration.
It's only 12:30 p.m. Central Time, and they've probably only just flown over New York, but it's pitch dark outside this plane because the movie forgets how to time zone.
Actually, I would have removed a sin for unintentionally getting the timing correct. Non-stop American Airlines flights to Europe from O'Hare typically leave in the evening, meaning that's how the sky should look in late December.
Number 664, number 672, 671. Now.
Forget this robber's knowledge of the neighborhood. I'm much more interested in why these 3 neighbors all have their outside lights timed to come on 15 seconds apart from each other. It's almost like they knew someone would later be narrating and timing their turn-onness.
So that's a sin? Or is it an inquiry? Because if it's the latter, that's easily answered. The sun just went down, so it makes sense for the timers to come on relatively at the same time. There are more than just 3 houses on this block, Jeremy, which means all the others' lights didn't.
Kevin screams so loud he breaks the 4th wall.
Sinning this scene.
There's no one home. The house looks secure.
This asshole says the house is secure, even though Kevin didn't lock the door as he was running away from Marley. Smells fishy. This cop must be on Sal Maroney's payroll or something.
He says the house looks secure. What does Kevin not locking the door have to do with that statement? You're suggesting the cops have the right to just enter someone's home, and they don't.
We're the wet bandits.
You're sick, you know that? You're really sick.
Ransacking someone's entire house is okay, but clogging their drains and leaving their water running makes Harry sick.
That's the joke channel that pretends they only tell jokes.
Kevin had no idea when Harry and Marv would be back, right? So he's been puppeteering this Christmas party all night in anticipation of their arrival? I admire his stamina, but I don't know if he can keep this charade up all night long, given he'll have no idea if they drove by or not.
Kevin recognized Harry from the previous night, and he saw that van leaving from his neighbor's house, who he knew were supposed to be gone to Florida for the holidays. He instantly realized they were up to no good in his neighborhood, running and hiding from them to avoid leading them back to his house. Your sin is immediately nullified by the fact the film shows Kevin watched them leave.
You better get out of here before somebody sees us.
It's awesome that Kevin's adjusted to life on his own and all, but why would he have this much laundry after 2 days by himself?
Apparently, dirty clothes only exist when your parents leave for Paris.
I mean, right now it looks like there's nobody home. Last night the place is jumping.
Maybe everyone's hungover, Harry. And can you keep it down?
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
If the kid's there, the parents gotta be. He's home alone.
Roll credits. Also, on what basis does Harry make this assumption? He saw a big party last night, and the lights came on when they tried to break in the night before. Just because he's seen this kid twice without parents, he knows he's by himself?
That's because you cut out all the context to these couple of scenes that explains Harry's reasoning. Marv went in to scope the house out where he heard Snakes' murder. This led to Harry deciding to stake the place out for fear of having Snakes' murder pinned on them in case they got caught. This leads to Harry and Marv seeing that Kevin is on his own doing chores, and Harry notices Kevin pretending his father was home. All of that led to Harry's assumption, and none of that made it into your video. I wonder why.
I don't care how mad I was. I talked to my dad, especially around the holidays.
Except for that time that I wished my entire family away. Other than that, totally open communication.
CinemaSins cut out 2 scenes of Kevin admitting he didn't mean that, one of them being right here.
Water is poured on the sidewalk, but Kevin is out here in just a sweater, so it's highly unlikely this would freeze in time for Harry and Marv to show up.
That is not how any of what you just said works. If snow exists on the ground, it is cold enough that water freezes on the steps. Him wearing a sweater has nothing to do with that, especially considering he's immediately going back into the house.
Why do the McAllisters have a doggy door? There's no mention of a dog or cat throughout this entire movie. Is its sole purpose shooting bad guys in the crotch with BBs?
Either you're lying or you're not hyper-observant. Pick one. Kevin's mother explicitly states they put their dog in a kennel at the beginning of the movie.
No, we're not bringing the dog. Put it in the kennel for the... Hey, get off. Kevin, out of the room.
Even if this piece of dialogue wasn't in the film, the conversation with Marley in the church reveals the McAllisters moved into that house, meaning the previous owners could have had a dog.
Yes! At this point, the burglars should call the cops on this psychotic little bastard that openly rejoices after shooting people in the face.
That sounds like the stupid motherfuckers that come here, shit on me and my work, and get completely shocked when I fire back at them, as if they're the only ones that get to say something. Why are you attacking me when I'm attacking you? No fair.
It should be noted that Harry is breaking and entering in full view of the rest of the block, which we've seen has several parties going on. You're telling me no one's outside on a smoke break and noticed the bad dude trying to break into the nice house?
What version of Home Alone were you watching? The Pornhub parody? This movie does not show there are several parties going on. You just made that up. In fact, Harry pointing out the lights of a few houses on the block suggests that quite a few families aren't even home right now, and the one across the street is shown to be empty when Kevin runs there.
It's too late for you, kid. We're already in the house. We're gonna get you.
Okay, come and get me.
Like, you've probably served hard time and maybe even killed people before, but wait till you witness the power of my feather fan.
It worked, didn't it? You can't argue with results.
You bomb me with one more can, kid, and I'll snap off your cojones and boil the motor oil!
Who the f*** makes a hilariously specific threat like this?
Joe Pesci.
Got him, Harry!
Tarantula Ex Machina.
You really need to learn the difference between a Deus Ex Machina and Chekhov's gun. This spider had been shown at least 3 times prior by my count. A Deus Ex Machina is a contrived solution to a problem that comes from nowhere with no prior setup. An example of a Deus Ex Machina would be if you were watching a realistic action thriller and the protagonist is thrown from a plane. Suddenly, a magical genie pops out of nowhere, catches them, and kills the bad guys for the protagonist, ending the story. Do you see how ridiculous that sounds? That is why Deus Ex Machinas are bad, and it's why almost no modern film uses them. This is why it's so jarring to hear you invoke Deus Ex Machina over and over.
Jesus, how long does it take these cops to respond? Since Kevin called them, we've been through the spider scene, the treehouse thing, the rope gag, ran across the street, through the capture and liberation of Kevin, and now he's back home. Imagine if this were a real emergency.
Have you never actually called the cops before? Every time I've had to call them... Oh...
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.
What's this? What's this? It's Jeremy being dumb. What's this? My mind is going numb. What's this? I think I might have lost a few IQ points watching too much of this shit. Fuck!